She can't see it, right? You can't
She's
see
so
it?
capable.
I don't even need.
Crystal.
I don't even need to see the outline.
No, she
I'm
doesn't.
just, you know what? I'm playing off of you
She's
guys.
a professional.
Off the cuff.
Where
She's
you
a
lead.
full
I got
professional. Hey, sorry
No
to tell
cuff,
you
but still
the
off the
Leaf
cuff.
Queen is not in this episode, Crystal. If you were excited,
That's it. I'm hanging up.
I'm so sorry.
We did promise a return of the Leaf Queen.
She's coming
It
back.
just was not
She's
here.
coming back.
Yeah.
It's just not today.
You are.
Welcome to This Endorian Life, a Star Wars podcast from the Radio Meanwhile Network. My name is Steve Rudd.
I'm Nick Gunning, and we're following the Ewoks from Return of the Jedi to the Ewok TV movies, the 80s cartoon, and beyond. Today's episode definitely falls into that beyond realm because not an Ewok in sight, my friends, not an Ewok in sight.
Not a one. Not a one. Well, yes, not a one. Well, so today we're discussing the prequel trilogy with Crystal Storm, creator of Legacy, a Star Wars audio drama. Welcome, Crystal.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm so excited to be back. I love you guys. I love this podcast. It's great. And I'm kind of sad that we're not talking about Ewoks today.
I know. That is
Are you really, though?
Yeah. I apologize for the squeaky, by the way, in the background. My dog has a new toy, and he's been quiet for literally an hour, but he's decided right now is the time.
He's earned it. And actually, it kind of sounds like an Ewok, if I'm being honest.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
That's all I'm hearing. Yeah. Crystal, you've just hit kind of a big milestone with Legacy. You want to tell us a little about it?
Yeah, we just hit 5,000 downloads.
That's amazing.
We actually hit 5,000 downloads last night before I dropped the new episode. So I was checking. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, it was crazy."
Oh, so you were able to announce it and everything. Right?
So we got to announce it today. So on every Tuesday evening, we do like a live listen, and then I hang out with the cast for like 30 minutes afterwards, and it's just a way to build like a community and stuff.
For sure,
and hang out with people, and we're just ridiculous. We just have fun. We just geek out about the episode and talk shit about each other and stuff. It's just fun. It's just a great time.
Awesome.
But I have never had a project that has been the way Legacy is, like received the way it is. So I'm just like, I don't think it's like clicked. You know, now I'm just like, whatever, let's get 10K. Let's get fucking 10K. Like, fuck it.
Yeah.
You know what?
Sky's the limit.
That's the Star Wars community.
Fuck that guy. Let's
sure.
Let's get a million.
Yeah.
Let's kick Mickey out of his house and put, fucking Legacy on that bitch. Like, let's go.
Oh my gosh. Wow. It's super exciting. So I'm really happy for you. And that's fun. And if Twitter is any indication, I mean, it really seems like you're building up, like you said, a community and a fan base of people who are just like devouring it and wanting to like converse with you and just like really dig into it, which is so cool.
I'll know that we've hit the milestone when somebody on Twitter is like, actually, Canon says, like, when I get that Star Wars fan, I know we made it. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for
might be one in the room.
I'm waiting for somebody to tweet at me that, you know what, you do not respect canon at all. I'm waiting for that.
As soon as that toxicity drifts into the fandom, you'll know.
And we know we've made it.
You just
no
more mountains to climb. No more mountains to climb.
Oh my god.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, let's get into this, guys. The prequel trilogy is what we're talking about today. These movies were all directed by George Lucas. Unlike the first trilogy, which I think he only directed the first. Isn't that right, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
He directed Star Wars.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes,
yeah, the worst one.
They got better the farther away he got.
The three? No, I don't know. I don't know. That's another episode.
You don't think A New Hope is the worst of the original trilogy?
No, I don't think it is.
Weird. Okay, well now I have to know. What do you think is the worst?
Return of the Jedi.
You're wrong.
You're wrong.
You are wrong, sir.
It goes Empire Strikes Back, A New Hope, and Return of the Jedi. Yeah, that's what it is. That's how it goes.
Mm-hmm. You know what?
Star Wars fan right now.
We've
agree to disagree.
We've got a lot on our plate, so I'm just going to leave that alone. Yeah. I'm just going to leave it alone.
I'm sure we're going to make enemies of ourselves in this.
I'm just going to move forward. Directed by George Lucas, all three movies were written by George Lucas, though Jonathan Hales is credited as a co-writer on Attack of the Clones. Phantom Menace premiered on May 19th, 1999. Attack of the Clones, May 16th, 2002. Revenge of the Sith, May 19th, 2005. So I went from basically like a 16-year-old to like a college man.
Yeah.
That was my gamut.
You do that again, that's just man.
Yeah.
College man.
I ran on a road. I didn't know what to say. I was a college student, I guess.
Dude.
So let's talk about the Phantom Menace. So in my memory, there was tons of hype leading up to the Phantom Menace. And they had just, Am I right on the timeline here? They had just released the original trilogy, like with special additional scenes and stuff into theaters again. That was right before Phantom Menace, right?
Yeah, the special edition came out before the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of hype that year. I remember they were selling gold editions, silver editions. There was all different. I mean, you see them all behind me here. I got like the VHS silver edition, the VHS gold edition, the regular VHS, the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Like that was a year of just like tons of marketing and stuff for Star Wars. And
Steve, are you a hoarder? Is that what we're learning today?
A Star Wars hoarder.
You're a Star Wars hoarder.
I even have the Popular Mechanics edition.
That is.
Wow.
Oh wait, that's not the one.
That's a cry for help in print.
Is that the one?
That's what you have right there. The release of the special
Mm-hmm.
editions was, I think, my first real memory of like true hype. Like, I don't remember any time before that going to the theater and like waiting in line. But I remember like the theater that I went to see those. It was like you bought your ticket and then you had to like queue up and wait like in a big long line to get into the theater. And that's what it was like for every single one. Like each one that was released, we would go like hours ahead of time and like hope we got a seat, you know, because it was there was that much hunger for it.
I mean, the only time I ever waited in a line for a movie was Star Trek Generations. That was it. Mm-hmm. Like even any movie after that, there was just no big long line.
Yeah.
And then Star Wars comes around in '99, and it was just like, oh man, like,
Well,
wait, somebody else is dressed up like me? That's awesome. You know, like it was like all of a sudden it's a community coming together rather than just people going to see a movie. You know.
Well, I remember because I mean, obviously, you know, essentially this was pre-internet, 1999, like practical internet at least. And I had a friend who worked at the movie theater. And she would tell me that people would come, like they would announce, like, okay, the Phantom Menace trailer is going to be before this movie, and people would literally come, buy a ticket for whatever it was, watch the Phantom Menace trailer, and then just leave. Like that was it.
I had it online somehow. I don't know if it was like the early internet or something, but I remember having it somehow down before. I don't even know what it was. It was before YouTube.
Yeah.
So it was some website where I could watch it. I watched it over and over and
back
over
when you have to
again.
start a download at like 7 a.m. and hope by like 7 p.m. it was done. But no, the hype was real. So let's talk about Phantom Menace. Let's talk about like going to see it for the first time. I remember it crystal clear. I took my little brother Steve. He was 6, and like it was really fun. It was just like new Star Wars. It kind of blew my mind. And I left it pretty much like okay with it. What about you guys? Do you remember seeing it in theaters?
I saw it. My parents took me to see it, and I had, like I said, I had waited forever to see this movie, man. Like once it was announced, like I followed it. This is like probably the first thing in my life that I followed pop culture wise. Mm-hmm. And like I mean, Darth Maul just absolutely blew my mind. Mm-hmm. You know, at the time, like 2 lightsabers, a double-bladed lightsaber, like you know, up to that point, it was just single blades,
right?
You know, and he comes out and does that, and it's like that changes you forever. You know, when you see that. Yeah. What about you, Crystal?
I have no memory of going to see the Phantom. None.
Okay.
I have one for Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
I don't have one for the Phantom Menace. I don't. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, I don't think I saw that one in theaters. I know I saw Revenge of the Sith in the theaters because I remember standing in that line and I remember being hyped for it. And I remember that there was somebody there in actually costume, which is actually remarkable considering we suffered through 2 movies and there was still a line to see Revenge of the Sith. The Star Wars fans, man.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. I feel like it might say something to those movies that like my memories of them are very kind of like, or just how I took the movies.
Was that your takeaway?
There's no, it was kind of just like, they weren't, you know, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones were not anything groundbreaking for me, not for me. And I think it had more to do with kind of just that feeling as you come out of the movies, you know, like I remember being really hyped for like the new trilogy and then, you know, all the emotions that came with that.
Sure.
Like, oh my God, they're trying again. Yeah. But with Phantom Menace, I don't, and I've got that gold VHS thing that you do, like the celebratory, you know, VHS tapes. I've got them in my back room and stuff. So total hype. But like, I think my mind has just been like Phantom Menace was like,
yeah. I mean, it's, I think that is an overall like, they weren't great, but they weren't terrible.
Fair. I think that's really,
you know, they were like, that was a good 2 hours of Star Wars.
Yeah,
you know, you're like, I feel entertained, you know?
I feel like the reason why Darth Maul is really the breakout character of that movie when he has like next to no dialogue, and he's not even in it a ton. Like when you rewatch it, there's not a ton of screen time for Darth Maul. But I think that what Phantom Menace is lacking that the later ones have is like clear heroes. Like who does a kid want to dress up as after seeing the Phantom Menace? And I don't know the answer to that. Whereas like in A New Hope, you've got Leia, you've got Han, you've got Luke, and all of those are these super cool like heroes that are just I mean, Luke less so in the beginning. Power converters, you know. But like as you go on, you know, lightsabers and Jedis and everything. And I feel like while as an adult I appreciate Qui-Gon and Liam Neeson and like even Ewan McGregor's like young Obi-Wan, I don't know that those were really characters that I was like, I'm Qui-Gon. You know what I mean? Like I don't.
Nobody's saying that.
Oh man, I loved Qui-Gon. That was my.
Okay, so
but you're such a dork, Steve. That's the thing.
I know. I am such a dork. Like I had his. I wanted his lightsaber. I have his lightsaber upstairs. You know, my kids whack each other in the head with it now, and they have no idea. But like that, and that's the original. Like I'm sure it's stamped 1999 on it. Yeah, for me, like Qui-Gon was just like the ultimate Jedi.
Yeah, okay.
Like that father figure. Obi-Wan was truly a Padawan, even though he didn't feel like he didn't really feel like a Padawan, right?
Yeah.
Anakin feels like a Padawan.
Yeah.
But Obi-Wan doesn't, you know, and he's, you know, he later says that, you know, he is ready for the trials. He's, you know, mature enough. He's ready and stuff like that. So I guess we're kind of seeing the waning end of Obi-Wan's Padawan time. But like still, Qui-Gon Jinn, like he's just, I mean, Liam Neeson's just a great guy for that. I mean, can you imagine it being played by somebody else? No.
I mean, I agree with you now in hindsight. Like in hindsight, I think Qui-Gon's whole thing with him like not being super great at going along with the program, like he doesn't really get along with the Jedi Council. Yeah. He's kind of like, you know, he's essentially kind of a rogue Jedi who's like just enough in the lines that they can't really call him on it. But he's,
I mean,
like,
I saved a pizza box,
and that's cool
with him on it.
Know?
Like that's how bad it. Remember Pizza Hut it was like Pizza Hut or Domino's had like Star Wars.
Wow.
I saved his pizza box.
Wow. I remember being really taken with all the music and Duel of the Fates in particular, like that. You know that.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, that was like so great. It's it really is truly. All right, so Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones at the time I thought was like the greatest thing I've ever seen. Like
really?
No, at the time that doesn't hold up for me now. But at the time I thought like this is the coolest thing. And I remember like just waiting, like is it on DVD yet? Is it on DVD yet? And I remember going and buying it at Toys R Us full screen. So that's how long ago it was. I remember going and buying it at Toys R Us and just like loving it. Just like totally loving it. My friend Tim named his dog Anakin, which is not a good name for a dog. And it was, at the time, it was like the coolest thing. I loved Attack of the Clones. Do you guys remember seeing Attack of the Clones?
I do. Yeah.
I did not see that one in a movie theater either.
Okay.
I was like reminding myself of like when it came out because like I think another thing like with Phantom Menace 99, I was a year out of high school.
Yeah.
And not huge, not like so huge in the fan. Like there was a lot going on in life, like first year of college, like I just wasn't. And then Attack of the Clones, I remember liking it more than the Phantom Menace because I felt like the story moved a little bit better.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, and there were some really, I thought it was trash, but they were just, I don't know. It just felt like it felt a little bit more Star Wars. It felt a little bit more like a war story. I felt like, you know, you now you're slowly starting to see like who Darth Vader is and how he, you know, begins. And that was, I mean, loving Darth Vader the way I do, like that was really interesting to see. Like, and I thought Hayden like killed it as Anakin in those.
Oh, really?
Did.
Oh,
yeah. I went back and I wondered if I still felt that way.
Yeah.
And so like I didn't have time to watch all of them, but I went back and I watched a bunch of scenes on YouTube just now. And you know, I thought that his chemistry with Natalie Portman was not always the best, and I really kind of blame George
Lucas's
Lucas's
creepy
inability.
Sometimes. I find it a little
very
creepy.
creepy.
I mean, it was because
super creepy.
He was like 9 when this started, so it doesn't really like, you know. So I mean, and Natalie Portman's amazing. Like Natalie Portman can act out of a paper bag, and you will freaking like. She's just great. So the fact that she couldn't get work after Star Wars says a lot about Star Wars
for sure.
Because she's just amazing. Like she's absolutely amazing. So I don't like blame like either of them for how heavy-handed George Lucas was with a lot of stuff in Attack of the Clones. But just going back and like I feel like when Hayden Christensen was allowed to act in certain scenes, it really like you see the torment and you understand like why I don't know that I had that feeling then as opposed to like now. I just thought I enjoyed it a hell of a lot more than I did Phantom Menace.
Interesting.
Oh, really? I'm a guy. I loved Phantom Menace. I thought it was great. I thought Jar Jar was annoying. So let's get that out of the way. That's the typical. Everyone thought it was annoying, but like I liked it. I really liked it. I wasn't that guy that hated Anakin. I thought he did all right. You know. Mm-hmm. I remember watching Attack of the Clones, and I really hated Anakin. It was so whiny. I thought he was just bad. The lines were corny, but I remember not liking it. When I watched it again, like sat down, this is probably the one that I've seen the least of all the movies. So I was kind of like, all right, I'm excited. Like there's going to be a little bit of nostalgia, and like there was like a bunch of nostalgia. Like, oh man, like I remember this, you know. Yeah. And I have a next door neighbor with a kid about his age. And it's right on. Yeah. That's right. That's what they act like. That is a typical teenager, and they act like that. And because I've seen it for the past 3 years, this kid in his teenage years in high school.
I hope he's not listening to this podcast.
No, he doesn't. Right. But like, it's perfect. Like, and I thought, wow, like I really thought he was so annoying. Probably because I was. It was 2002, so I was graduating from high school. Yep. So it's just like I was kind of that. So you're like, you never see yourself. Right. In that stuff. You're always like, he's so whiny. A typical kid, he's so whiny. And it's like, I probably sounded like that, you know? Yeah. But now I was just like, oh man, I don't know why I was such a hater because it kind of works.
I never
but
really
I really don't
like
liked
him, but I didn't mind that I didn't like him.
Yeah.
And I think what I kind of appreciated about Attack of the Clones was I felt there was a lot of tension there that I felt like, besides the fact that George Lucas cannot write a romance to save his fucking life, but kind of his relationship with Obi-Wan. I thought Attack of the Clones does a really good job of setting up how much you start to dislike the Jedi Council and their role.
True.
There's a lot of that. I mean, like, all the Skywalkers are annoying and whiny. Everybody but Leia is annoying and whiny.
True.
So I didn't mind that I didn't like him because it was always just very interesting. But now going back and watching that performance, I'm just like... You killed it. You kind of killed it.
I think it's interesting, like for me, the things that I didn't respond to, or I like the opposite things, fully adult version of me versus teenage version of me watching this. I'm responding to totally different things because on the rewatch, the politics and like Palpatine's plan to kind of use the Trade Federation to force himself to be in a position to kind of be like, I guess I should be emperor, is very clever. And like, if you get that, it's like, oh, wow, okay, good move. And then in Attack of the Clones, I was really into the whole, like, the chase on the assassin and, like, the whole conveyor belt nonsense and, like, the fight on Geonosis. Like, I thought all that was really cool. And as an adult, I find that a little bit more, like, cartoony. So it's like I'm having a really different experience about it. But, yeah, at the time, in 2002, Attack of the Clones was, like, aces for me. I loved it. Loved it.
It's funny that you mentioned that because for me... like looking back at the three movies, I think I prefer the third one. Well, I do like the first one because it's the beginning. I really do like that one. But I think the third one flows much better because there's in 1 and 2 there's a spectacle that draws you away from the story. The pod race takes up like 30-40 minutes of the movie. That's a lot of wasted time. We get it. He can drive really fast. Surely there was a better way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like surely there was a better way to kind of display that he can do that. Maybe a chase through town, you know, for 5 minutes. And we'll be like, oh yeah, wow, he can actually really fly well.
Yeah.
But they spend so much time. And then in the second movie, the spectacle of the arena scene was just like, they fly ships to planets, and this is how they're going to put them to death on posts in the middle of a giant arena where it takes like 5 minutes for the animal to get to them. Like, so to me, I was just like, this is such a waste of time. And what does it show? It doesn't show anything. It actually shows that the Geonosians are really archaic with a lot of the stuff. But then all of a sudden, they design the Death Star? That for me never could be reconciled. That was one of the things I wrote down, Nick. That I could never reconcile that they did that. And when Rogue One came around, and you know, we all talk about Disney erasing the sequel trilogy. Well, you know what they did? They erased that the Geonosians created the Death Star weapon. Yeah, all right, don't tell me this is the Death Star.
True. I hadn't even thought about that.
When he pulls up that hollow thing,
You're right.
The ball is faded out, but you see the weapon.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I was like, oh no, maybe they're gonna say like the Geonosians created the Death Star and Urso created the weapon. And I rewound it and watched it again. I'm like, no, it's what's lit up is the dish and the weapon system.
Like, we fixed it, don't worry.
In short, the reason why the first two for me are just like, ugh, is because they waste so much time on these fun aspects of it rather than driving the story. And that's why the third movie feels so rushed. Because they have to like, oh crap, like we spent two movies wasting time on pod races and I don't even know what you call that.
So I watched these with my 8-year-old son, and the Jake Lloyd of it all, who I don't really have an issue with his performance, but the Jake Lloyd of it all and the Jar Jar Binks really kept my son interested while the other like political stuff was taking up so much space. Like every time those things would kind of pop back and Jar Jar would do something silly, he would kind of snap right back into it. And while I agree that Jar Jar is annoying, it is kind of weird that he's just like sort of around, but they do nothing with him for the next two movies. And I could see my son kind of drifting away because after that first movie, there's not really much for the younger crowd.
Just the droids. R2.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
R2.
I feel like you speak to something that I don't think George Lucas figured out, and it was that the story that he wanted to tell, it should have been an adult movie.
It should have.
I think it should. I think you're right.
Should have been.
Yeah.
I mean, and a friend of mine, I know we've talked about this on this podcast, but he was talking about how apparently Jar Jar Binks was supposed to be kind of like Yoda was, because when we first see Yoda, like he's kind of annoying,
right?
Not nearly in a Jar Jar.
Yeah, he is
Binks
kind of
way,
annoying. Yep.
Yeah, and that whole like conspiracy theory basically about how Jar Jar Binks was supposed to be like a Sith Lord or whatever, there is a little bit of weight to that. If you I don't want you to really do this, but if you watch the movies and you watch Jar Jar and you watch that some of the things that Jar Jar can do that his race cannot do, you kind of feel like George Lucas probably did have a plan for him to be something, and then everybody was like, F Jar Jar Binks, and he was kind of like, well, now I can't.
Yeah,
His like flip into the water and stuff like that.
There's just like little things that Jar Jar can do that suggest that he did have a bigger role that Lucas then eventually kind of canned, and then he just became this annoying character.
Yeah.
But it's interesting for me, for somebody like George Lucas, I feel like he would have had all the creative, whatever in the world to make these movies what he wanted, and maybe he just couldn't decide if he wanted to make a movie for adults or kids. So I think that's why when we watched them, we're like, well, as a kid,
I think he got pressured into it.
Maybe.
Which is crazy because like the people, the kids who saw his original movies are now adults. So it's like that begs the question:
follow it.
Who are you making this movie for?
Yeah.
Right?
That's a lesson for creators.
Can we acknowledge that like that's really important when you're making a movie and you want
or anything
a lot of people to
know
see
whether
it.
it's a book or whatever. You need
to
know.
Look at all the stuff that's coming out now.
It
that like
can't be everybody. It
right.
has to be right. I'm making it for this group.
Yes.
If all these other groups like it, great, but it's not for you. It's for here.
Yeah.
And that way you've got a clear artistic vision with it. Because I feel like those movies would have been 1,000 times better if maybe George had answered that question for, because you're right, the first, they're all over the place. They're literally all over the place. We're like here, and then we're here, and you're just like.
You have R2, C-3PO with the wrong head walking through this arena like, oh, die, Jedi scum, and then Jango's gets beheaded.
Yeah.
Who's this movie for?
Yeah, it's true.
Like, who's, like, so
well,
it's like,
and take out the center slice of Attack of the Clones and try like looking at the tone and what's in Phantom Menace and the tone and what's in Revenge of the Sith, and it's like these are crazy. These are like oil and water. And where if you look
very
at the
dark,
and
they did a very good job of that at least.
And the original trilogy has its light moments and it has its dark moments, but tonally it's all cohesive, and you cannot say that about the prequels. Like it or not, they're not consistent. And I think you're right, Crystal. Like it all kind of goes back to audience, and like picking one would have made them better. Yeah. And I don't really think it would have limited the audience. I
don't think it would have either. I don't. I mean, like Star Wars has never been like R-rated.
Right.
But I mean, but I think George Lucas. I mean, because you're right, that stuff with Palpatine, like as an adult now, it's really interesting how he manipulated things. you're not like 12-year-olds. They don't give a shit about that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't get. I never,
Nobody cared. Nobody cared. They want to see, they want to see the lightsaber fights. They want to
Yeah.
see the cool, the cool actiony stuff. Nobody cares about
Yeah.
the inner, like the story that George Lucas wanted to tell with these movies.
Yeah.
So I feel like he just threw all this other shit in to make it fun, even
Right.
while he was trying to tell the serious story. And he should have just told a serious story.
Yeah.
Because we should, obviously we're showing up, George.
Right.
We're still showing up. So like,
Yeah.
just tell it.
And the thing is, like, again, like watching this with my son, like as a parent, I was fine with him watching the first two, and I really had to think, like, can he handle Revenge of the Sith? And that's just speaks to the problem with the trilogy,
Yeah.
That is just not even for the same crowd as the first movie was for, let alone what the target audience should be. So weird. Revenge of the Sith. Let's talk Revenge of the Sith real quick.
Yes.
I saw Revenge of the Sith in Buffalo, and it was just like me and my wife. We were just dating at the time. And this guy and his kids, and the guy was like, I'm going to watch me some Star Wars. And the kids just ran around the theater the entire time.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So it was super annoying. But I didn't super care because we were kind of like, oh, there's another Star Wars movie. We should probably watch it. I didn't maintain the momentum of those movies all the way to 2005. Revenge of the Sith was like, I guess I better watch it. It wasn't something that I was like, I absolutely have to see this. What about you guys?
I remember being pretty hyped for Revenge of the Sith
Okay.
because he kind of lured me in with Darth Vader.
Okay.
And I'm kind of one of those like glutton for punishments. Like I didn't hate the first two movies enough that I was lackluster about it. Like a new Star Wars movie, I'm like, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
Like I'm just going to be there because it's Star Wars. And plus it was like, oh, we're going to find out how Darth Vader, because I'm in.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I remember that one very clearly. Like I stood in line for it. I remember the line outside the theater being pretty hyped.
Okay.
And it's literally one of my favorite Star Wars movies, Revenge of the Sith is. Because I feel like in that one, he knew, like, this is the story of how Anakin Skywalker becomes Darth Vader. And that's the story that you get. Sure, there's still some politics stuff, but this is like, this is dark. This is the fall of everything. And I thought at least, like, while you're right, the first two movies, we don't know what you're doing, but this one, it has to stand apart because it doesn't match up with the first two at all.
Yeah.
But I feel like, at least for this one, it felt like, if you're taking your kid to this one, I mean, I get you can, but this clearly was not the movie for kids. Like, there's none of that little stuff. I feel like he didn't waste time with this one. Like, this is how Anakin falls. This is how the Jedi Order falls. Like, we're straight darkness in this movie.
Politics fall. I mean, literally,
all of it.
Everyone is the enemy. The politicians are. The Jedi are. It's
you feel it. You really
feel that's why the Empire is so accepted.
Yes.
Because it's like, man, everything's falling apart.
Right.
We got. I mean, I guess this is. Yeah, let's try. Let's try a dictator. Let's try it.
He successfully navigates every character. Besides Palpatine, who gets exactly what he wants. But he successfully navigates every character into a position of, like, I only have bad options. So I have to choose the best of bad options. That's where, like, the entire galaxy is by the end of Revenge of the Sith. And that's good storytelling, So you can't say you can't do it,
They had to go against their code because they knew something was wrong. Something was afoot. And it was almost like, these are our morals and these are our standards. If we follow them... the politics, the democracy will fail.
Yeah.
If we don't and we try to overturn it, democracy may prevail, but we're going to lose all of our morals and we're going to lose their value.
Yeah.
And again, like, as an adult, that's the thing I appreciate about Palpatine's plan because he forces the Jedi into that position and then he wins no matter what. Because they go against what they say they're going to do, and he can just be like, you can't trust them. They were going to do this one thing, and now what? They're soldiers? We can't trust them. If they do nothing, no problem. Just take over.
The manipulation was brilliant. And I feel like George Lucas really tried to set that up in the first two movies, and it gets lost.
Yeah.
It gets, when
they're kids' movies.
That's why.
It's true. They're kids' movies,
They're not, I watched a couple of YouTube videos just about, and from Attack of the Clones, there's like this scene where I completely forgot that it was Padme who did the first vote of no confidence that kind of kicked this off. Like, so I completely had forgotten that, like, he manipulated her into, like, kind of kicking off this whole political firestorm that gave him the power. In the Senate. And I was just like, man, like, you could have, I really wish you'd go back and fix these. Like just tell the story, George.
I know.
You know, just tell it the way you wanted to.
I know.
I guarantee all this pod. It can't have been it. You can't be so
Yeah.
ADHD, bro, that you were just like, let's spend an hour on a pod race. Like,
Yeah.
I refuse to believe it. I refuse.
Yeah. Well, I think the pod race sold a super popular video game, which I love to
Oh,
this
yeah.
day. And toys and lunchboxes, you know, you got your marketing right there, but it doesn't really serve the story.
But it didn't last. Like for me, I didn't see this movie when it came out, and my friend Pete he was like deployed in Afghanistan or something like that, and was back, and he dragged me to go see this movie. To go see this movie, you know, and it was his second time. He's like, "Oh, it's so great! You got to come see it." And I was like, "Fine, whatever." I saw it in like Ridgewood at like 11 o'clock at night. Like it was some stupid hour of the night, and I was like, "Fine, I'll go watch it." And I was like, that's not that bad, you know, like, okay, you know, like as I was expecting 1 and 2. And 2 for me was just so, I don't know, it just wore me out as far as like, Star Wars is just reduced down to like speeder chases through the city and base jumping Jedi and giant arena torture scenes. Like, just, you know, like, this is just weird to me. It just was like,
So are we all on the same page that Attack of the Clones is the worst of the prequels?
I would think so.
Yeah, I think so.
I do.
Okay.
I do. I mean, I thought that Phantom Menace is boring to me. It's not bad. It's just, for me, it feels just very boring.
It's very linear and very simple.
Feels like a slog. That one kind of does. And I feel like there are a lot of different ways that you could have made that a lot more interesting, especially with the acting talent that you had. And that's another thing that's really like, it blows my mind about George Lucas is I feel like he is so heavy-handed in his directing and how he sees something in his brain that he never lets the actors who he's got playing these iconic roles like really play them. Like really like give life to them. Like we can say a lot. People have like so many different emotions about like the new trilogy, but I will say, aside from not knowing what the hell you wanted to do with Finn, I mean, they let they let Adam Driver be Kylo Ren
for sure.
Like no matter how you felt
really
about that
point.
character, and like obviously like his emotions changed depending on who the director was. But even between JJ and fucking Ryan, both of them let him have some creative liberty with that character. And you don't really see that in the other movies. Like you didn't like, I feel like he's got like a noose around Natalie Portman's neck. Like even with Samuel L. Jackson and like you said, like Liam frickin' Neeson is playing Qui-Gon and I don't care. I know that you love him, but like I honestly do not care. And that's
he's just Liam Neeson. Like I know that now. Right. Yeah, he's not really that. But to me, it was like.
But he's still like he that's all he does now, right? He's in these action movies. He plays these roles, so I feel like he's perfect for it. And George Lucas was just so heavy-handed with these movies that he just didn't let the actors really become anything.
They were robotic. They were very robotic. The lines were just robotic.
With Revenge of the Sith because things are falling apart.
Yeah.
So really the only emotion that these actors really have to play is, oh my God, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, in the second one, Padme's wardrobe, that literally every scene she was in, she had different clothes on.
I think
Did you notice that again?
If I look at
everyone.
If I look at this, like, I don't know, there are some majorly underserved actors to go with what Crystal's saying, and characters as well. I think Dooku is like so cool, but like, what? Like, he's like a cameo. Like Dooku, like I even before I rewatched him, I was kind of thinking Dooku just had more to do, and he just doesn't. But I feel like maybe the biggest weakness is really just benching Padme. You know, because she just has nothing. Yep, she just has nothing to do.
She becomes the love interest. She's That was one of my other things. Yeah, they shelved her, and she just became the rail meat for Anakin.
Yeah,
I will never not be mad about that because I feel
agree.
like Star Wars has now done this twice. Like first, shame on you, George Lucas, forever for wasting the talent of Natalie Portman.
Yeah,
like, what are you doing? Like, plus it's Padme. Like, are you for real right now?
Yeah.
She is so much more interesting in like the Clone Wars than she is in the movie. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And then, thank God Carrie Fisher is just Carrie Fisher, because Carrie Fisher made Leia and George Lucas didn't have a say about it. Like, I feel like, you know, like you can kind of tell that like Han Solo. I mean, you know, Harrison Ford was like born to play Han Solo, but I feel like even with Mark Hamill and Luke, you can tell sometimes that there's some of that George Lucas like, gotta do it my way.
Yeah.
Especially in A New Hope.
It was better in Empire Strikes Back because it was Kirshner then, so it wasn't, you know.
Telling you, like, I know those movies get better the farther away George Lucas steps, because then the actors get to step into the roles. But I mean, I feel like Star Wars has done this twice now with these female characters that are supposed to be like strong, and they just don't know what to do with them. You've seen the same thing about like Rey. It's always going to be like Rey is like starts to be something in that first movie, and then nobody can figure out.
Yeah.
And then
why is she strong? Well, she's just really, really strong.
Nobody can figure out why Rey is awesome. And all of us who have been waiting for, like, you know, we know that there's, you know, female Jedi because Leia was one in, like, all the like extended universe. You're waiting for that, and then we finally get one, and y'all don't know what the hell to do with her.
Right.
So, like, you know, first, you know, George Lucas doesn't know what to do with Padme. How do you not? And now the new directors can't agree on who Rey is, so we get nothing. And I'm just like, I'm mad at y'all.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And it's true, because obviously, I mean, the archetype for Padme is Leia. And Leia remains my favorite character in all of Star Warsdom, because she just, every scene that she's in, and maybe it is just Carrie Fisher, you know? She owns it, and you know that she's working like 6 different angles with everything she says, every interaction she has. And with Padme, I think you see most of that in Phantom Menace. Like any like agency she has is in Phantom Menace, and then Attack of the Clone hits, and she is just in girlfriend zone for the next 2 movies. And it's really inexcusable, because also she is the only woman in these movies, essentially.
Right.
You know,
she's supposed to be influential. That's the thing too. Like,
it's telling all this story of like political intrigue and everything that's going on, and you're wasting Natalie freaking Portman.
She's not even part of the politics of the political aspect.
Right. Just being like the reason that Anakin loses his mind. Like, are you for real right now?
Right.
Come on.
And she's essentially a pawn for Palpatine in the first movie. Yeah. And I feel like, okay, I buy that. I buy that she would be manipulated by him.
He's manipulating everybody.
Right. And that's someone she trusts and everything. But the next 2 movies, movie 2 should start, and she should know the score instantly. And she should be working it for the next 2 movies. Wow. And I remember reading that initially there was a whole thing where she was essentially going to be forming the rebellion. Like, that's, I think that's on the cutting room floor somewhere. And that would have been so perfect, because
it's killing me.
It's
killing me.
I know.
Yeah.
E.K. Johnston has a trilogy called The Queen's Hands, 3 books, and it is a lot more about Padme, like, working it behind the scenes. So check that out. But she should absolutely be doing that, just from, I mean, let alone the representation of it all, but just from a storytelling standpoint, at the very least. You're setting up Luke and Leia's parents, and all we have is, like, Anakin's kind of an ass, and Padme goes along with it. You should be showing her strength and his, like, raw strength, and Luke and Leia are kind of like the marriage of that. But without that, narratively, it doesn't work. And, like, we all know Natalie Portman could have done it.
No. I rewatched the scene where Anakin has, you know, he's avenged his mom, and he's gone like all dark side or whatever, and he's having that really emotional moment about it with Padme. And I remember, and I never thought this then, but I'm watching it now, and I'm realizing, like, and I feel, you feel like this is the beat that George Lucas was trying to get across, where he'd been having dreams about his mom dying, right?
Yeah.
And then it happens, and he does, and I feel like that's that's trauma. Like, right, as an adult, I'm like, well, no wonder you were flipping out about Padme. You got trauma, boo-boo, that everybody ignores.
Yeah.
Like, that was so pivotal for him, where, like, I had this dream that my mom died, and then she actually did, and I could do nothing. And now this woman that I love is about, and I can do nothing. So it's such like this drive, and that's such like an interesting adult theme that George Lucas could have explored there. And
the Jedi are so controlled, right? That's all of order and control, and you just see him spiraling out of control.
Because he has no idea how to handle it, because everybody is just telling him, well, don't be sad, bro.
Just meditate a little bit,
right? Like, nobody's helping.
But in reverse, meditate, you shall. You know,
even like Padme tries in that scene to like help him. She literally says to him like, "What you're feeling is an emotion," and he says back to her like, "I'm a Jedi. I should be better than that." And that's so powerful that
Yep.
just gets lost because George Lucas doesn't know what to do with these two amazing actors.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to me. It's just
Yeah.
crazy.
No, I think you've really hit it well. I really have spent like the better part of the last couple of years thinking that I just hate these movies. And I'm actually kind of glad.
Me too. It's funny. Yeah.
I'm kind of glad that I rewatched them because I finished Revenge of the Sith and I texted our mutual friend Eric and I was like, "Hey man, I think I kind of like the prequels now." And he was like, "I'm in the same boat. I don't know what's happening."
Yeah.
And it's true.
Well, it's because it's in light of the sequels. I mean, I have a friend.
I've always loved Revenge of the Sith. I just have.
Yeah.
I talked so much crap about the prequels because it was easy. It's low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
It's like, but like now that the sequels are out and it's just a hot mess.
Yeah.
I have a better appreciation, I think, of the prequels because at least they're trying to tell a story and they manage to do it.
Yeah.
Right? You may not like it. It may be boring sometimes and wild, but by the end of the third movie, you're like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
We finally get it.
Right.
That's what happened to his wife. That's what happened to Obi-Wan. That's what happened to the Jedi because, where did they go? That's why the Empire's around. That's why Darth Vader is the way he is.
Yes.
That's why he's filled with so much hate. You know, like for me, like watching this movie again, like when Obi-Wan was like, "You're like a brother to me," you know, like I was just like, oh man, like this is how you roll into 30 years in the desert, 18 years. I don't know how old
whatever it is.
Luke is. And it's just like, everything just fell apart, like, tragically.
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
You're right. I mean, in the prequel trilogy, the boxes narratively are checked. You know the answers to those things. So I think the debate or the discussion becomes a matter of, did we get to those places naturally? Like, does it fit tonally? Are you satisfied with how? But you're right. You can't argue with the fact that we do know the answers now. You know, like a story has been told of the previous generation, and we know how we get to the next. And you can't. There's not a cohesive story in the sequels.
Yeah,
not at all.
There isn't.
So I just think because of that, and as we all sit here and discuss it, like we can see what's there. We see what could have been. We see the story that was trying to be told, and it's like we got weird versions of 1 and 2 and got the finished product in 3 and can kind of extrapolate back of how we got there. So like we know that it's just not always on the screen, I guess.
It feels rushed. Like the trilogy, at least by the end for me, like Revenge of the Sith it's rushed. Right? Like it feels like it could have been 45 minutes longer or an hour.
Yeah.
You know, like make it another hour where they explain more.
Well, a lot of the character work, which is not a strength of Lucas's, I feel like a lot of the character work happens off screen. You know, like getting
true.
Anakin from movie to movie, it's like stuff probably happened in between these movies to get him where he is, but we don't really see it. Same with the relationship between Padme and Anakin. It goes from like he's a child to he's creepy with her to they're all in. You know,
yeah. I'm all in. By the end of the movie, she's all in.
I feel like this is something that should be discussed in film classes and told, like, you know.
True.
To just understand your strengths and weaknesses as a creator and to not get like just so like diva like with it, which I feel like George Lucas actually, I feel like if you want to, I feel like the story of Anakin and Obi-Wan and the Jedi is being told the best in the Clone Wars, the animated series, because I feel like then they gave us like what we all wanted the prequels to be. Like you get it there. You really see these characters shine and the relationships, and which makes like Darth Vader's fall like all the more because you see like what Anakin was doing like before that. And I'm still watching it, but there's like this amazing scene in the Clone Wars where Anakin goes to question some guy, and the way he walks in, you see that little like, oh shit, dark side, and they drop the Imperial March in this scene, like just like a couple of bars or two.
That's very good.
And it sends chills up.
Oh yeah.
There's all of that though.
Yeah, you know, you get so like it's like they knew what George Lucas was trying to do, and they're like, well, you can't do it, so let us do it in the series. It literally is because like George Lucas has these gorgeous, amazing ideas, but when it comes to like the execution sometimes of these, you're just like, maybe let somebody else do it.
Yeah.
Well, you're like, great idea. Call Dave and let Dave, what you just said, let him make it.
Well, that pretty much sums it up. Good ideas, poor execution. Wouldn't you agree, Steve?
Absolutely.
Thanks to our guest, Crystal Storm. Always a pleasure to have Crystal on. My favorite guest. I hope I'm not causing too much friction when I say that, but I do love having Crystal on these shows.
Oh, definitely our favorite guest. I mean, why else have we had her on so many times?
I know.
Pure entertainment.
We got it right the first time. Our first guest, our best guest. If you enjoyed Crystal on this episode, make sure you're listening to Star Wars Legacy. A new episode drops the same day this episode drops, so you've got plenty of time to catch up or catch today's episode. Steve, before you and I roll out of here, though, I got to know your Ichiwawa moment of the prequel trilogy.
So for me, the Ichiwawa moment of the entire prequel trilogy is kind of a split between two things.
Okay.
One, the Wookiees. I mean, they didn't have to put the Wookiees in there, but to make up for the Christmas special, I feel like it was required that they had some sort of Wookiee in there, and man, they were so cool. I forgot. That's the only redeeming factor of the second movie. You know, the fact that the Wookiees are in there.
It is a cool.
And then Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon is my second half of my Ichiwa.
Okay.
I just think
one is your Icha and one is your Wawa. Okay.
Yeah, the Wawa. What? Okay. Yep.
Listen, I'm gonna be basic because I don't think you can top the Duel of the Fates lightsaber duel with I almost said Jar Jar, with Darth Maul, Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan. I mean, I just think it's
true.
It's just brilliantly paced. You know, he's literally a Phantom Menace the whole time, and suddenly there he is. And as they're going through, and the force fields keep coming up, separating them, forcing them to like stop and pause. Yep. And Maul is like, like a caged animal, and Qui-Gon is just like, whatever, I'll use this time to meditate. And then, coupled with the music and the big like 1-2 punch with Obi-Wan stepping up. It's just a great scene. Maybe the best Star Wars scene, at least in the top tier of all of Star Wars. Don't you think?
I do think that, and it's watching it again. I realized that there's a lot of cuts, right, where they will be you'll be watching it, and it'll cut to like the throne room.
Yeah,
the Padme and her band going, trying to get to the whatever the Chancellor of the Trade Federation is, right. So they kind of break up the fight, which is, I guess, good because there's a lot going on, right? And it's in this fight, if you notice the quality in the saber fights, this is probably I can hear people reeing already. I think the quality in the saber fights go down significantly after this one because after
agree.
This, it's just like lightsabers passing across the screen, and they're just doing the X, right? Like when you're fighting as a kid, it's just X, X. And this one, it's so different. It is groundbreaking, and I just don't think they, even Obi-Wan's and Anakin's fight in the third movie, this is still better than that.
Yeah.
It is. It's way better. It's multi-leveled, multi-lightsabers.
Yep. I agree.
They just try to top it, and I don't think they ever did.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. What about your Oak of Arc moment?
My Oak of Arc moment is I got really frustrated that the episodes 1 and 2 got kind of caught up in a spectacle, and I think they wasted so much time. Yep. So that's like a big one for me. But I think the biggest Oak of Arc is midichlorians as a microorganism and not a force energy. That for me, like, that is an unforgivable because it destroys the essence of what the force really is. It does kind of
take away the mythology of it to just be like, just run a blood test or whatever and see how force sensitive you are. It takes the mysticism out of it. It really does.
Absolutely.
It just makes it like a mundane scientific kind of thing. So
oddly scientific.
No, I think that's a good one. I feel like when that came up, I just kind of was like, whatever, midichlorians. I think, and I'm glad that Crystal's not on for this point because I know she was all in for Hayden Christensen, but I just feel like that's the one thing that maybe didn't go up a drop in my estimation on this rewatch. Yeah. I just don't think he has it. I think he's better in Revenge of the Sith, but he never sells it for me. And I think if I had to narrow it down, the romance in Attack of the Clones is just cringe. It's just pure cringe. Yeah. The one thing I could say in defense of that is that it's very much feels like an old style serial kind of vibe, which we all know George Lucas was going for, at least with the originals. Yeah. So like I can see that, but I just think it's cringy.
The script is pretty that's pretty awkward. I think that really hurts it especially.
Now let me ask you this: has your opinions changed at all with this rewatch? Where does it sit for you right now? Crystal made the point off mic that she feels like the prequels. If you're a Star Wars fan, if you're like a committed Star Wars fan, then yeah, watch the prequels. And I think that's a good point because I think if you're just like, oh, I gotta check out this old Star Wars thing everybody's talking about, you're probably fine with the original trilogy. I don't think that watching the prequels is going to make you a deeper fan, and I don't really think it adds much, if anything, to the characters that you see in the original trilogy. So
I
think
that's true. Yeah.
I think Crystal's point there is strong, but I found myself much more like okay with these movies this time around, and I think for a lot of the reasons why we've laid out. You can see the darker story that's at play, and you can see where some of the dumbing down or the kiddiness, or just as you were saying with the let's have some hijinks, kind of bring that down.
Yeah,
but I was just much more invested and interested in these movies this time. So I guess if I'm ever at a point where I'm going to do a Star Wars movie rewatch, I'm not going to be like, oh, crap, I have to watch the prequels. I'm going to be like, yeah, put them in. Let's roll the dice. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think watching it, especially for me, there was a bit of nostalgia running through. So maybe that like added to the excitement a little bit. But I did feel that I appreciated it more for what it is.
Yeah.
I still think it's got its issues, and I know everyone says that A New Hope has issues, but no one ever tells me what they are. But that claim always comes out. Oh, no, there's so many mistakes. Oh, what mistake? But no, like, I just think there are some unforgivables, but it's still Star Wars, right? We talk about this in the Ewoks show all the time, that we're like, ugh, this just doesn't feel like Star Wars. And 1, 2, 3, it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
Through and through. Yeah, they mess up here and there, but like,
I can't argue
at the end of the day, it's Star Wars. And you're right, like, Crystal's right. Like, these movies are really for somebody who wants to be more invested in it.
Yeah.
Like you watch 4, 5, and 6, and you're like, wow, that was pretty good. And it's like, would you like to see more? And then you click yes, okay. Like, it would be 1, 2, and 3, and that's for somebody who's like, okay, this is really cool. Let's see what it's all about, right? But if you like it and you're like, that's good, then 4, 5, and 6 is the 3 movies to watch.
Yeah.
Not saying that these are terrible, but it's there. You're right. They're a deeper lore into what Star Wars is, because the purpose of it is really just to explain
how we got
why
there.
Darth Vader is Anakin, or Darth Vader is Luke's father. Let's be honest. In one sentence, that's all 3 movies.
Yeah.
So
I
think it's better. I appreciate it more. I absolutely do appreciate it more.
I agree. I went into it being like, oh god, here we go, and I left being like, yeah, all right. All right, so I think that's a positive outcome. All right, well, next time, I promise we'll be back to talking about Ewoks, because back in Endor, we're going to be on Season 2, Episode 4A, The Totem Master.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We're back to the half episodes.
Yeah, we are. It feels like it's been forever since we talked about the Ewoks.
I know.
Even though it was just last episode, but whatever. Whatever. Thanks again to our guest, Crystal Storm. She will be back when the Leaf Queen returns, whether she wants to be or not. We will get her on the schedule. Make sure you're listening to Star Wars Legacy, available wherever you get your podcasts. And thanks again, Crystal. Always a good time. Steve, I'll see you next time, my friend.
See you next time as well. This Endorian Life was brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Other shows on the network include 90s Music Got Me Like, previously on X-Men, and 9021 Here We Go. Share your thoughts on this and upcoming episodes by following us on Facebook or Twitter @Endorian Life, and please rate, subscribe, and share the show wherever you get your podcasts.